Welcome to the Yukon adventure, everybody. We're going to get started with logging today, and the first contract we're going to do is Destination Sawmill. We need to haul 4 medium logs and 2 long logs to the sawmill in flooded foothills. It's going to be quite the adventure, so stick around and see how it goes. Let's get started. I picked up another truck. This is the Pacific P12. It has the ability to install the logging crane while hauling long logs at the same time. It definitely has its shortcomings, mostly being underpowered, but it should be able to get the job done for everything we need it to do. I'm using the special gearbox instead of the advanced special because that'll help a little bit with the power issues that it has. I've also installed chain tires, and I have chain tires on the Dan as well. We're headed back to flooded foothills where we can get loaded at the logging station that's up on top of the mountain. I chose to leave this garage in Big Salmon Peak because it's a lot easier to get there than driving up the waterfall that's frozen. So we'll just take both trucks and we'll head up that way now. Like I said in episode 1, this area here gets pretty muddy when you come through here with the bigger trucks. These ones shouldn't have any issue, especially driving them in tandem. As I said before, one can push and one can pull, so it helps quite a bit. But when you get to this ice hill, you're definitely going to be happy you have chain tires installed, as it's very slick and it's hard to get up if you don't. At the top of the hill, when we get to the rolled steel factory, we're going to take a left and drive off into the trees following this path. This road will take us back up to the house where we found the Scout fuel carrier, and from there it's going to be a straight shot over to the logging station. I'm going to drop the Dan here because driving through these trees can get a little bit tough when you're pulling both trucks at the same time. So we'll just drive them through separately. Driving the Dan, you can tell it has more power than the P12, and both trucks have all-time diff lock, but the P12 has the ability to turn the all-wheel drive off. Sometimes when it starts to power out, you can turn it off, and it helps to get it moving a little easier. Normally I would leave the log crane uninstalled when I'm hauling long logs, because the additional weight only adds to the power issues that this truck has. But since we're driving across the side of a mountain, and it's pretty tippy, there's a high likelihood that we'll spill some of these logs along the way, and I don't want to have to bring another truck up to get it reloaded. So for this job, we'll leave it installed. Right around the corner, we'll go through that deep snow, and just up ahead is the logging station. I'm going to do a drive-by loading and try to get up here on solid ground where I can get refueled quick, and then I'll pull the P12 up here out of the way. Then let's just jump back into the Dan and we'll do the same thing. Right in the loading bay here, it's very muddy and very soft, so I try not to stop there if possible. Alright, let's get caught up to the P12 and we'll get back in our tandem formation. A lot of times in the past I have come up the waterfall to get to this logging station, and it is doable, but it's pretty difficult, so nowadays I just come from Big Salmon Peak to avoid it. It's a lot easier to go down it than it is to come back up it. So you probably remember this area from when we came through here on episode 1 with the F750. There's some deep snow through here and mud, and when we go around these winding turns, we're going to disconnect the trucks and drive them through separately. Once we get both trucks out the other side, that's where the fun starts. We'll just pull the P12 up here out of the way, park it, and then we'll drive the Dan through. A lot of these areas is just easier to drive the trucks through individually than to try to drive them through together. The Dan is having a little bit more of a struggle to get through here. It doesn't quite have the clearance that the P12 has, but it will make it through. Okay, now that we're connected, it's time to head through the rough stuff. This first section here is the most difficult part of this trip. The road leans to the left, and there's a pretty good chance that you'll spill your logs here. Having 2 trucks is good, and having a log crane is even better. And we made it through there. It did look a little bit sketchy there for a second, but it all worked out. The Dan went through quite a bit easier. It's a lot lower truck, and the lower center of gravity works in our favor for this. Alright, now that that part is over with, the rest of it should be fairly easy. It's just going to be a lot of mud to drive through. Heading up to the sawmill is another story. Going down this waterfall, this is the section I was talking about that's really hard to drive up, and avoiding that is the whole reason why we started in Big Salmon Peak. Even going down it can be pretty sketchy because the rocks start sliding underneath your truck, so using your brakes sometimes it doesn't even really stop you. You just kind of have to ride it out and point in the direction you want to go. Now that we're at the bottom, we can get back connected. We'll drive across this little bridge up ahead here, and then we have to do that river crossing. This river crossing is a bit difficult. There are some pretty tall boulders through here, and the Dan isn't really helping. The P12 managed to get stuck on one of them, so I'm going to disconnect from the Dan, try to get the P12 through if I can, and then I'll just winch the Dan across. We made it back out the other side. Now we're at the lower logging station, and there's only medium logs here. We're gonna have to come back over here to get loaded up for the 4 medium logs to take up to the sawmill. Driving out of here, this road is pretty nasty. There's big boulders and deep mud, deep ruts, and then a steep hill coming up out the other side. Most likely you'll have to winch yourself up this hill. Now that we're at the top, I'm going to avoid that deep water pit and just park the P12 over to the side. The Dan struggles a little bit more through here because it has lower clearances, so we'll have to winch through here as well. I was wrong when I said that Strategic Reserve in Kola Peninsula was possibly the hardest logging contract in the game. I would have to say now that it was the hardest one we did so far. But going through here with these logs, this one feels a lot more difficult. We've made it through the most difficult part. We'll just follow this rock road around the bend, and the mud through here gets pretty deep, so I'm going to stay closer to the shoreline where there's less rocks to get hung up on. Then we'll just head back to the dam and drive that through. As you can see, the dam got stuck on these rocks, and there's not really anything in a convenient position to winch to. Sometimes you can use those trees to get you over, but it doesn't always help. I'll just use the P12 to help get the dam through there. Oftentimes I do go around this mud pit because of how deep it is, but when I'm hauling a big load like this, I'm just going to go straight through the middle. Let's head up the road. We're going to get refueled before we head up into the hills to get these delivered. So we'll just park here for a moment and bring that Royal up here with the fuel tanker, and we'll get everything topped off. Now, I used to take the first road to the right and drive up the waterfall, but it's a horrible path, and there's one section where you have to get up over these rocks, and there isn't anything to help winch yourself through there. So I found an alternative route that goes through the trees that's going to make it a lot easier. Just find this metal frame building on your map and make a mark on it, and that'll help guide us through the trees. We're going to go right around the backside of this brick building, then we'll turn up into the trees, and the worst part about going through here is these bushes. You know, the bushes are really sticky, which I don't quite understand, but they really seem to get your truck hung up when they shouldn't. The snow is a little bit deep too, but I would say mostly it's the bushes that are the problem. Having said that, this is still a much easier route than trying to drive up the waterfall. Once you get up closer to your marker, try to cut through between the two buildings and the little porta potty. We'll just drive out the other side, and then the sawmill is just up ahead. Let's get this one delivered. We can leave the P12 here and do the same thing with the dam. Alright, we've got the two long logs delivered. Let's get these trucks pulled out of here. I'm going to head back down to the garage and sell off these trailers. We got both trucks down at the bottom. We sold off the trailers. Let's run them back into the garage. We're going to reconfigure the P12 with a medium logging add-on. I'm also going to install mud tires for this part of the trip since we're done driving on ice, and these mud tires should help quite a bit to get back through that muddy section on the way to the logging station. We can grab a medium log trailer to connect to the back of the P12, and then we're going to run back into the garage and set up that Cat 745C to come along with us. Then we'll head out and we're going to drive both these trucks in tandem back over to the logging station. I'm switching this back to the special gearbox just to help get up some of these hills a little bit easier. The Big Cat burns through a lot of fuel on this trip, which is another reason why I'm using the special gearbox. It's just a little bit more economic on fuel. The massive mud tires on the Big Cat will help to get us through here a lot easier. We can go around that mud pit this time since we're not loaded, and then you can see up here to the right it's already starting to get pretty tore up since we drove through here with two trucks. This next part, I'm going to have to drive them through separately again, so the P12 doesn't get stuck on anything going up around this corner. And now that we're back, we can continue on together. It's difficult to drive through here even unloaded. Coming back is going to be a lot harder. Let's make a big loop around so we're pointed in the right direction, and then we'll get loaded up. So we're going to haul 3 loads up there this time, and it does require 4. You can come down here with 2 heavy trucks pulling a log trailer on each one of them and get all 4 loads done in one trip, but it does make it pretty difficult to get back when you've got 2 trucks that are loaded like that. That's the reason why I'm using the Cat, which can only pull 1, is to make sure that I have this massive heavy truck to help get the P12 through. But even the Cat is struggling to pull it up the hill, so I'm going to have to drop it and drive them through separately. I do really like the Pacific P12. It's one of my favorite trucks. My biggest complaint about it is that the engine is definitely underpowered. I really wish they would add another engine upgrade for it. There are some things that we can do to kind of help offset that underpowered situation, and I'll get into more of that on further episodes when we use it for other jobs. Pretty much the same as before, we're going to just take both trucks around and try to get back to the main road. In some spots we got to drive them separately just to get through these tighter areas, but for the most part we can run them together. If the big Cat had the ability to connect a trailer to it, it would definitely be an OP truck for jobs like this. I do really like to use it for these harder logging missions because it's so capable and it rarely ever gets stuck, and it's very stable. It's just the fact that you can only haul one at a time that makes it less of a good choice for a lot of these jobs. As you can see, we burned up most of our fuel on that trip, so we're going to have to get refilled again before we head up into the hills. And then we're going to take the same path that we took last time, cutting through the trees and going out the backside of that brick building. We're starting to get a pretty decent path through here now, and unlike other areas, a lot of it actually is pretty firm. It might actually help to go around the left side of these trees where there's less bushes and then cut back to the right. It's not such a big deal with the Cat because it has articulated steering. It can get through here a little easier, but the P12 pulling that logging trailer behind it doesn't do well around tight turns. But having the Cat along for this trip is definitely comforting, knowing that it can help get the P12 through here. Once again, we'll just have to winch our way up. The biggest thing that we're going to struggle with on the P12 going through here is how high the logging bunks are. They manage to get stuck on these branches pretty easily, but if you winch your way through, it should be able to make it. And now that we're outside of the other building, just like before, it's a pretty straight shot from here. Okay, we got 3 out of the 4 complete. We just need to run back and get one more load. We're going to use the big cat for that, and we're also going to use it to do part of a task that's along the way. So I'm going to run both of these trucks back down the hill the same way that I came up here, and when we get to the bottom, we'll split them up. Once again, we'll get refueled, and we're just going to pull the Pacific off to the side and get it parked. We're going to need that truck again on the next contract. Running back with the cat by itself is going to be a lot quicker and a lot easier. Just after we get around the rock bend and back up the other side of this hill, we're going to cut off through the trees and head out into the swamp for the Lonely Island task. There's a little Don 71 stuck out there, and we need to get it pulled out. The mud is horrendously deep, and that's why I like to take this truck out there, because it's a lot easier to get through there with it. We just need to get this back out to the road. We'll cut back through the trees to do it. And then we can leave it here and we'll pick it up on our way back. Let's cruise back down to the logging station and we'll get reloaded. Alright, the trip back is definitely going to be a lot easier, although it will still be a struggle. We just don't have to worry about pulling that second truck behind, but it should be more enjoyable. Then we'll grab that little Don and bring it with us. At some point we do need to bring that massive trailer off to the right there back to the garage in order to get the Cat 770G. That task is also a tough one because of how deep and muddy this road is, and the load is super heavy. It just sinks along the way here. And as you know, that trailer also doesn't have very good off-road capability. So we want to make sure that we have the right truck when we do that. Okay, we can just leave the little Don over here off the side of the road, and we'll haul that to the destination on the next logging contract. Let's take the same path that we took before, heading up through the trees, and before you know it, we'll be up to the sawmill and have this contract complete. Like I said, I thought Strategic Reserve was one of the most difficult logging contracts in the game, and although it is difficult, these contracts in Yukon are on a whole nother level. The places that you have to drive through with these massive loads are quite challenging. Alright, Destination Sawmill is now complete. On the next episode, we're going to continue logging on this map, and it's going to be a challenging contract as well. Looking forward to it. Hope to see you then, and thanks for watching.